Welcome back to Odetta Unedited, where we educate, elevate, and attempt to entertain. Anyway, as the channel name suggests, Odetta Unedited, I'm going to try not to edit. So I'm going to make mistakes. It's normal. We're humans. I'm going to say things that it may not align with your views and it may differ from how you have been cultured, but we don't judge here. Different strokes for different folks. Different people do things different ways, and that's okay. It's okay if I perceive it one way and you perceive it another way. It's okay for us to have a difference in opinion, and that's allowed in the comments. So feel free to share as is needed. And what I'm going to share with you is what the experts say about retirement and what's required versus my approach to how I will be retiring and how my family will be retiring. So my approach is slightly different from most people out there because I'm not waiting until I retire to live my best life. Absolutely not. I'm going to live my life to the fullest, but I'm staggering it based on certain periods of time. And I'll explain that later on. On the flip side, most financial experts will say something completely different about retirement. And I'm going to share those numbers and those statistics to make sure that you're ready for that time in your life if you're not already there. My approach is called the bell curve approach, yes, from mathematics, and I'll explain it. And then most financial experts say that you're going to need about 80% of your pre-retirement income to maintain the lifestyle that you had before you retired. What do I mean by that? Let me give you a practical example. If you earn $50,000 per year, as an example, and you can determine this based on your real life situation, but at $50,000 per year, you'll need $40,000 per year in retirement income to maintain the lifestyle that you had before you retired. If your annual income is $100,000, you're going to need about $80,000 annually to maintain your lifestyle. But not everybody wants to live lavishly when they retire. I know we don't want to. We actually are on a different spectrum. But I'm going to share my perspective now. Remember, it may differ from yours, and that's okay. My perspective for retirement, and we've adopted this in our family, I refer to it as the bell curve lifestyle, living without regrets, but with control. What do I mean by that? Think about mathematics where you have that bell curve that was shaped kind of like that. I'm drawing it here on screen. And my philosophy, and again, the philosophy shared by my family, is that we're not going to wait until we retire to do things like traveling because our knees may fail us by then with all the walking. We're not going to wait until we retire to drive the car of our dreams. I don't have a dream car per se. I'm more a homebody. But if I had one, I wouldn't wait until I retire to drive that luxury car or that dream car, because by then I may be falling asleep at the steering or dealing with all the back pain from sitting too long trying to get my money's worth out of this vehicle. We're not going to wait to live in our dream house when we retire, or wait until we retire to acquire our dream house, because by then we might not be able to climb stairs if they're in there or thoroughly enjoy the house. And that's what I mean when I say I'm not waiting until I retire to live. Rather than delaying enjoyment until retirement, we adopt the bell curve. And here's what I mean by that. During my 20s and my 40s, which to me are my prime years, I'm gonna give my saving, my investing, my side hustling, my multiple jobs, everything I've got. If I were to reflect on that time of my life, because right now I'm close to 50, But during that time of my life, I had a full-time job that was very demanding. I worked as an executive in a US Fortune 500 company at the vice president level. But despite that, there were times when I had over 11 side hustles when it wasn't me buying and selling products. And I started small. I would buy a few and then I grew it into a full-fledged store, haberdashery. I was renting out spaces to barbers and hairdressers. I had a fully functional bar. Everything started with a little and built up to a lot. So it's not like I had a lot of money that I just put into these ventures. I always had side hustles, side jobs, side gigs, even with that demanding 9-to-5 job. And I did this a lot when I was in my 20s, leading up to 40s when I had the most energy. Why? I was working towards retiring in my early 40s, and I was able to retire from corporate and from working for people at age 42. Now, how did I do this? My goal between ages 20 to 40 was to save about $3,000 a month. And I know that's not attainable for everybody watching this for obvious reasons. But I'm going to give you different approaches that you can take to doing this, and even with lesser numbers. I knew that at $3,000 per month invested in an index fund, as an example, that if I did it between 20 and 45, which is what my goal was at the time, I would have accumulated over 2.5 million US dollars. Now, just to give you an example, back then I didn't do YouTube, but I had other side hustles. And if I wasn't able to afford, which I didn't use my 9-to-5 job to do this investment, I made sure I had money coming in on the side. Whether it was a second job, if you're able to get that second job, or you can start a YouTube channel, because a YouTube channel based on education that's monetized with only 10,000 views a day, it will pay you about $3,000 a month. You can start with buying and selling. While I was an executive working as a vice president for a Fortune 500 company, I would leave my job, and this was paying me a US 6-figure income in my 20s. So it wasn't that I was making or I wasn't making enough money. I was making very good money, but I would still leave my job. Soliciting wasn't allowed on the compound, and I have to lead by example. I would drive my vehicle out to the gate of my job. I would flip the trunk open and I would sell my clothing and shoes from there. I saw somebody the other day who was reminding me of this. The thing is, when you're on the path to achieving your greatness, shame, pride, and ego cannot be in your equation. A lot of persons wouldn't do this because they would be worried about what other people are thinking about them having a VP role in this US company and out here selling goods or peddling goods from the trunk like a higgler, which I was, but I didn't care. I knew what I was working towards, and I know for a fact that the people who judged me back then would not be in the position that I am in now, being able to retire at age 42. Now, for you, it may be the YouTube channel. It may be surveys. I did surveys on Respondent that paid me $100 to $200. And these are surveys that qualified people have to do, as an example. But there's so many ways for you to make a few extra dollars to push that investment and that savings in honor of not your twilight years, but what I'm going to refer to as when I'm living life to the fullest, which is between ages 40 and 60. So let me go back and recap. Between 20 and 40, I worked a full-time job. I had a ton of side hustles. My goal was to save $3,000 a month because I knew that when I retired, which at the time my goal was to retire at 45, I would have accumulated over 2.5 million US dollars. And that invested in a bond could take care of me every single month because it would bring in close to $15,000 per month, whether I got out of bed or not. If your number is $1,000 per month because that's what you can afford by coming up with these side hustles because your job just doesn't pay you enough for you to save that, after 25 years, it can be 800,000 US dollars that you would have. If it's $500 that you can afford, and don't tell me that, oh, I live in a place where I can't afford this. I know of survey platforms that will pay you $1 per survey, 50 cents per survey. It does add up. Even if you say, let me carry lunch, let me split my dinner at night. And I know this isn't possible for everybody because many people don't even have dinner. But if you have food and at night you say, let me split my dinner, bring half for lunch tomorrow, and you save that lunch money, which is anywhere from $7 to maybe $10, depending on where you live. Most of you watching live in the US, Canada, and the UK. So let's say it's $10 for round numbers. That's $300 that you can invest per month, assuming you do it for 30 days, into an index fund. In 25 years, you'll have over $300,000. Don't make excuses. Find solutions, right? That's 20 to 40s. My 40s to 60s is when I'm living life to the fullest. That's where I'm at right now. I'm going to buy what I want. I'm going to drive what I want. If I had dream car aspirations, I'm going to live in the house that I want. I'm going to vacation where I want. I'm not a big fan of traveling anymore because I had to do it so much for my career. But my stage of life that I'm in right now is all about creating memories with my family. And I'm also going to pay off my debts during ages 40 and 60. Now, when I get to my 60s, most people are retiring, and this is when they're living in the dream house, buying the dream car, and hoping that they can live their life. Most of us won't even live until that age, considering the world that we're living in. But anyway, for me, that's where the bell curve comes in. You ramp it up, and then at 60 or in our 60s, we're going to taper it back down, and we're going to start winding down. This is where we're going to enjoy the simple things in life. We're not going to be living in a house this size like the one I'm talking to you from. Absolutely not. What's the point when I won't be able to climb the stairs with my old arthritis knees? No, we're going to sell this because the children don't want it either, because they want to downsize. They're more minimalistic. We're going to sell this. We're going to get into a 2-bedroom, probably a little cottage somewhere on the beach here in Jamaica, or probably a condo. We have other properties for investment. So maybe we'll move into one, get rid of this, take the money, invest it. So it will turn over money, whether we're investing it in additional real estate or we're investing it in a bond that will pay about 7% per annum, which means we're going to be making money as we sleep while that bond is performing. The point here is we're going to eliminate unnecessary expenses. During our 40s to 60s, we're going to get rid of the power company. We're going to install solar. We don't want a bill when we get older. And if we have to have a bill, it's going to need to be a bill at a minimum. No debt, no bills. Thank God we were able to be debt free in our 40s, so we don't even have to worry about that. But it's okay if you're not. You need to put things into place so that in your twilight years, you are living the simple life, the enjoyable life. And that's our approach to retirement. It doesn't have to be yours, but I'm sharing my strategy. Now, our retirement plan will require us to have or to be getting on a monthly basis only about $2,000 to $2,500. If you go based on the retirement plan of the experts, they're saying, as an example, let's say our household brings in $10,000 per month as income. The experts are saying we need $8,000 per month to continue to maintain that lifestyle. But based on my bell curve approach, we only need $2,000 or $2,500, not $8,000, because we would have already done the traveling, living the life, driving the car, living in the house of our dreams in our early stages. Now it's time to savor memories and not material things. You shouldn't be doing that anyway, but some of us want to live it up, especially in my case where I was born into humble beginnings. I wanted to see what it felt like to be able to buy what I want, when I want, and how I want. But after a time, even that becomes overrated and you want to go back to living a simple life. That's what we're going to do versus what the experts recommend. Now, how much do you need to save for retirement? Now, it is suggested that you save 15% of your gross salary, and this is before taxes, which is why I say gross salary, starting in your 20s, and that you should do it throughout your entire life to maintain the same standard of living when you retire. This is going to include things like your 401k, your employee pension plan, and any other benefits that you get at work. As an example, if you were making 50,000 US dollars per year, or the equivalent in whatever currency you earn in, and you save 15% of that, it means that you'd be saving about $625 per month. Now, for our cheap bell curve retirement plan, all we need to save per month is about $312, just to give you a contrast of what the experts say and what our plan is showing from a results perspective. Now, let's talk about how much you need to save by age, again, based on the experts. When you're in your 30s, it is said that you should have 1 year worth of pay saved up. So as an example, if you're earning $50,000 per year and you're in your 30s, you should have $50,000 saved up or invested somewhere or in something towards your retirement. How many of you watching have the amount that's required based on what you're earning saved up? You see, the thing is, most people don't, and they don't make retirement a priority, which is why when you go to Walmart, you see all these older persons there waving to you. Do you think they want to be at Walmart? Absolutely not. Many of them did not have a retirement plan, or they lived longer than they anticipated and their retirement money ran out. You do not want to be in a situation where you're relying on your kids either to cover your retirement. And the only way to prevent yourself from that kind of situation is to take it seriously. When you're in your 40s, you're going to need to have 3 times your yearly salary. So basically, if you're making $50,000 and you're in your 40s, you need to have $150,000 saved or invested somewhere to make sure that you'll be okay when you retire. If you're making $20,000, you need to have $60,000 put aside, and this is going to preserve your lifestyle. If you're doing it like us, where we're going to throw out lifestyle, then these numbers don't matter. If you're in your 50s, you need 6 times your yearly income. If you're in your 60s, you need 8 times your yearly income. And that way, by age 65, you need 10 times your yearly income. So basically, if you make $50,000 and you're in your 60s, you should already have $500,000 put aside. If you make $20,000, you should already have $200,000 put aside, either in an investment somewhere, in an emergency fund, somewhere that you can access it upon retirement. I know most persons watching don't have that in place, but you know what? It's not too late. You may have to get a little bit more aggressive in pooling that money. You may have to be hustling, doing the second job, the third job. Don't let it kill you. But what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. Fight for your independence when you retire. The key, however, to all of this is to start in when you're young and doing whatever you commit to consistently. And if you can't find it in your pay, you need to establish additional streams of income to do so. Remember, you don't want to be a burden to your children. You don't want to be a burden to society. And I don't want to see you at Walmart waving at me because you squandered your time and you didn't have a good retirement plan. Let's get our act together here, and I'll see you next time.